city need to do more in that area generally, about education about what is your property and what is the city's property and what you can and cannot do?
Any property owner knows where the end of their property line is, because we all get we all get a survey when we buy it, but there's an education that we need to, note to myself, there's education we need to do, I agree. The other thing that we're trying to do, and one of the things we get from the Super Neighborhood program is those super neighborhoods, the civic associations are the best educators out there, where super neighborhoods disseminate the information through their civic associations and down into the community and work with us. We like to respond when something is first done, not after something's been on the ground for a year or two. And there are problems all over the city caused by such things as filling in the swale in front of your house because you want a little extra parking, and yet you've blocked what moves water in the neighborhood. You know, those aren't just annoying, they're dangerous, all the way to things like putting a pile of rocks along the right of way because you don't want someone to park too close to, on the grass, if you have grass in front of your house. There are other places where people put homemade no parking signs up, having no relation to the City of Houston's parking program. We're trying to educate, but we also have the ability to write citations, and we're working with super neighborhoods to get them behind these things.
Mayor, will you be sponsoring any neighborhood town hall meetings on the payday loan ordinance? What?
Janice, a reminder before I get off the tree issue. When someone's taking down one of these big trees on the weekend in front of a private development, it's generally because they know that it's a violation of city ordinance, and this developer paid up because he did know it was a violation of city ordinance. You're gonna have to ask me a question.
Will there be any town hall meetings and public notifications on the education of this particular ordinance related to payday loan?
Not contemplating any town hall meetings. The various stakeholder groups have meetings throughout Houston, educating people about the dangers of payday lending, educating people about alternatives to payday lending, and actually many of the stakeholders also offer free financial literacy programs. So there's a lot of information out there, and we're depending on the stakeholder groups to help spread the word. We will be contacting as existing credit access facilities, also known as payday lenders, and auto title loan companies, once the ordinance passes, to make sure that they understand that they have to register and what restrictions they have to fall under.
Mayor, Emily Aiken, Fox 26 News, regarding the payday lending issue. I've been covering it for a while. You said once the ordinance passes, in light
It didn't
of...
pass today.
I know. That's why. That's why you sound hopeful. But really, let's look at it realistically. It was tagged today. Rodriguez is out there. Some that says that he's going to come back and tag it again next week, and then it pushes it back.
You're implying
after.
that he is doing this on the behest of the payday lending industry.
I'm only relating what has been implied to me. And that perhaps, and I have not spoken with him, okay.
Yes, and he has the ability through procedural moves to throw it into the next calendar year, but I fully expect to have it passed in January if it doesn't pass this calendar
You
year.
do, even with new council members
I
coming
do.
on board.
I do.
Okay, and then what about your response to Council Member Jack Christie's changes that he made, or proposed changes that he made in the ordinance? What, did you have a chance to look at them?
I did, not before I was at the council table today, and I was a little surprised. Generally, we expect council members to give us a heads up before they try to make substantive amendments to something. While the amendment that Councilmember Christie offered is similar to my original ordinance, I've made a commitment to stakeholder organizations that I would join all the other cities in Texas that have passed this and pass a uniform ordinance. And so I'm going to oppose his amendments.
What about the other city council members that have a question about, not giving the financial information on the impact of how much it costs the city to enforce this?
We have given them a rough estimate. Part of the reason that it's still vague, we tried to give them the top line number, but depending on the level of scrutiny enforcement that council wishes to support, that number could go down. So they have been advised as to what we think adequate enforcement would be, and they have the ability to move downward from that.
Does this require additional personnel?
Pardon?
Will this require additional personnel to enforce this?
Yes.
All right, the alcohol-free zones, how significant a hurdle is that item in addressing the food desert problem? Yeah, it was tagged today.
It's just one of the many items that help contribute to the food desert problem. I fully expect it to pass next week. We have a council member who is out and really wants to discuss this. But I know several council members tagged it. This is designed to allow the larger grocery stores to enter into neighborhoods where, frankly, there's literally a church on every corner, and to fall within the parameters. We have a 1,000-foot standard, and we also have a 300-foot standard. Restaurants are already able to operate in this area. We'd like large grocery stores over a certain amount of square footage to be able to operate in these areas, and we're trying to remove as many impediments as we can as we work to site grocery stores properly across the city.
Would you anticipate several, opening up fairly? How quickly would we?
We're in negotiations with one grocery store operator, and again, we've been working on this for a long time. If this were easy, it would have already been done. The market would have taken care of it, but this is just one. It's not a major problem, but in order to be profitable, a large grocery store wants to be able to offer a full suite of items, including beer and wine, and we want them to be able to do that. This in no way would allow the small corner stores to expand into more areas. This is limited to the large grocery.
And actually, the next item on the agenda, the library rules, it seems somewhat vague. What is the goal?
It's to align the library director with the parks director and authority. Right now, the parks director has the ability to set hours in parks, to set behavior in parks, and we want the library director to be able to do that on the grounds of the libraries.
Is it about smoking, or is it about addressing the congregation of homeless folks that are at the downtown property, or what's the?
This is something that would apply to all libraries, just as it's parallel to the parks director has to all parks. And certainly targeting smoking is one thing that the director would have the ability to do, but it also would allow for other enforcement as well. But no, it is not our intention to limit access to any city facility during normal operating hours to any frequent areas. But you also know that some parks have hour restrictions, the ability to congregate at library facilities that would fall under the purview as well.
And Mayor, most libraries don't have law enforcement or enforcement personnel like the park rangers have for the parks.
Well, park rangers are not law enforcement personnel in the sense that, having a police officer there is. And yes, at some libraries there are security issues that the library director works with the police department. We use strategic places in the security cameras and that sort of thing to provide for the safety of our librarians and patrons.
So you won't have an actual force for them to be able to go to and say, well, we need this particular type of behavior to be cleaned up,
No.
as opposed to the park rangers who can intercede an altercation.
Mr.
that-
Feldman, are urban park rangers, are they licensed police officers?
No.
I don't think they were.
No.
They're not. They are,
Yeah.
they are security personnel, but they're not, they don't have law enforcement. They don't carry guns, they don't have arrest powers.
So the rules for the library director would be enforced the same way as the rules for the parks.
So the parks director would still have to, if you needed, if you have a fight or something, the parks director still calls in the police department, or law enforcement officials.
And sorry, going back to the grocery store ordinance, did you say that you already have a large chain that has expressed interest? Have they made any sort of guarantees?
We've had a number of large chains that have expressed interest, and we have negotiated with a number of large chains. Haven't had much luck, obviously, and we have turned to some of the independents to see if we can get something started, and we look forward, hopefully, to if we get this passed. There's one small hurdle. I think we'll be able to make some progress.
And do you see food deserts as a major problem in
I see
areas?
food deserts as a concern in neighborhoods among a number of other concerns. You know, our highest priority in these neighborhoods is public safety, and then it's decent, affordable housing, both multifamily and private residential, and put money into the roads and the infrastructure. But having grocery stores that provide full access to healthy foods has long-term benefits in those neighborhoods, and it is a part of attracting people back into some of these inner city neighborhoods that have been languishing.
An appointment question. Mr. Robinson, Anthony Robinson, appointed to the LDC today. Was it his personal story that drew you to that? What do you think he brings to the board?
His personal story is very, very compelling, but it's more the combination of his experience and his skill set. He is a lawyer, he is an accomplished linguist, and he has the ability to bring skills to that board that I'm having to replace as we had a couple of board members rotate off. And so I believe Mr. Robinson is a really good package. He's going to be a good board member because of his personal history, but he's going to be an even better board member because he has skills as an attorney and being very familiar with the criminal justice system.
Mayor, will, in the food desert question again,
And community contact as well.
will the individual stores or large grocery store chains be apprised of HR 20 or any sort of concessions by the city and support from the city to move into these areas, and if so, for how long?
Okay, I don't really know the answer to your question. We have incentives available to the grocery stores that want to open. The challenge with many of the large chain grocery stores is that they have a model, they have a template. This is the store. You know, they may have 2 or 3 templates, but we put this size store in this type of neighborhood with this type of demographics, and they have a pattern that works for them, and it's a challenge to get them to break that pattern. They're willing to consider it, and we have been able to provide some of the large chains with additional information about some of these neighborhoods that we'd like to populate that they didn't have. But we also feel that there are opportunities with the independents that may be more fruitful. And so we're going to continue to pursue both. But this is something that we've heard across the board that we need to do in order to help make these stores
Will
profitable.
they have to pay for their own infrastructure in terms of
It
sewers
depends on,
and water?
it depends on what type of deal they strike with us.
Thank you.